A little bit of, what is it? Accidents will happen? I literally just forgot the name of the song right as the stream was starting. Whatever. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka MultimediaJay. Silent Partners, Accidents Will Happen. Keeping that as the intro song from yesterday with the 90s discussion, because we're not talking 90s stuff again today, but we're talking game design type stuff. And the last couple of times over the last couple of expansions that I've been critical of World of Warcraft in some way, shape, or form, the radio style commentaries usually began with that song, particularly when I was like, haha, World of Warcraft Legion, what a stupid name. And then Legion turned out to be a decent expansion out of the bunch and stuff along those lines. So let's keep the tradition rolling, because tonight we're going to be talking about something I want to make a video essay about. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the video essay scene on YouTube, video essays are these big, long videos that are basically mini documentaries and stuff that go into detail and deep dive discussions on various topics. Definitely better than these chat streams if we're going to deal with a topic in depth versus off the cuff like what we're doing here. Plus, let's be blunt here. YouTube streaming sucks. We went over the numbers. YouTube streaming is not doing well, at least when it comes to YouTube gaming. But overall, just the setup just isn't right for streamers on YouTube. YouTube keeps buying talent and they're releasing features for creators, but they're not really doing anything to funnel viewers into the experience other than the algorithm system that they have going on right now. Let me just give you a great example of this. I'm talking about World of Warcraft, right? And I'm not putting it in the World of Warcraft category because it's going to be a chat stream, and the most we'll do is maybe run some slides here and there. But the thing is, World of Warcraft, the directory, yes, YouTube has game directories. Surprise, surprise, those game directories exist. The way you get to them is by searching YouTube for the name of the game and then clicking the box off to the right. Not very good UI-wise, not very intuitive, and I don't think a lot of people looking for a directory of live streams for a particular video game are going to be intuitive enough to figure that out until they figure it out by accident or somebody tells them. So if I go searching for a game and I click the title of the game in that little box that pops up on the side, then I finally go to the old YouTube gaming from the mid-2010s YouTube gaming game directory, back when YouTube was trying to make more of a Twitch knockoff than what they have today. Then I can access the game. Here's the thing. World of Warcraft, perfectly solid MMO, despite the scandals at Blizzard, despite the problems that have been going on with the game over the years. Perfectly solid MMO with plenty of decent sized streamers streaming it. Yeah, it's just, it has critical mass. It's a game that people care about. It's a game that people want to watch other people stream. The biggest streamer on YouTube, when I checked, had 10 concurrents, and they were streaming a private server. That can get you DMCA'd if Blizzard finds out about it, as S-Fan found out when he got stream banned from YouTube for, when he got copyright, well, he probably isn't stream banned anymore, but he got a copyright strike from Blizzard, which shut down his live streaming capabilities, and then he went off to Twitch. But it can actually get you banned from Twitch, because it's considered a form of, you're not supposed to play the game that way, so blah, 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 blah. So the biggest streamer of WoW on YouTube, 10 concurrents. And we wonder why the quarterlies keep saying the data that they're saying. That's not good enough. That's not good enough for a platform that keeps buying talent while Twitch treats people like garbage and gets away with it because nobody challenges them. It's not good enough. It's great for viewers. If you go to Twitch, you'll probably find somebody you'll want to watch if you can get through all the ads. I went through today and I pruned out a lot of people from who I'm following on Twitch because I don't really want to watch too many people on Twitch anymore. And I got served 17 different ads. Hope you enjoyed the money, Twitch. It's great finding out about Uber Eats 17 times because I keep getting the pre-roll every single time I go through unfollow, 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 and get the pre-roll ad every single time. Yeah. Why do you think I support the idea of Twitch having competition? Stuff like that. It's nuts. Why do you think I support this idea of Twitch having competition? Because Twitch needs the competition. They're coasting along on their own inertia. Somebody has to challenge them, and it might as well be YouTube. We saw Facebook basically in a tailspin because some of their numbers weren't legit. And now the numbers have been corrected, what we're looking at is if they decline anymore, they've lost all of their gains from the pandemic, numbers-wise, in terms of hours watched. That was a wake-up call. So it has to be YouTube. YouTube is the big one here. Facebook just doesn't have the critical mass and the design for it. YouTube is closer to being a viable Twitch competitor than Facebook is. You know, Facebook can keep working on Facebook gaming, but they're going through some growing pains over there. And then there's some demographic issues where the numbers that Facebook does manage to pull is all around the world. So if you're from the United States, you might have a hard time finding streamers because if you select English as the language, things drop way, way down. So good luck. I think I only have there are only two Facebook streamers that I could name off right now. And one of them is Lord Kabun, who used to stream on Twitch. So the other is Rhea Bish, who I think I was algorithmically introduced to. She looks kind of like Valkyrie, but she's British. So I jokingly call her British Valkyrie, but that was a long time ago. And I think there was like one or two guys that I was recommended in my Facebook feed back when Facebook was pushing gaming more that were playing American Truck Simulator. That's it. That's the extent of the game streaming scene over on Facebook. Not like YouTube is much better, though. Not like YouTube is much better when... And I wonder, how exactly does this even work? Why does it have to suck so much? How come I can put in the effort to put together a show like this, and I get this? I get goose egg for activity. And I get... What's another thing we could talk about here? I get instantly demonetized as though one of YouTube's own songs somehow isn't advertiser friendly. This stream was demonetized the minute I went live. I didn't even get a chance to say anything. Why? And we know that demonetized stuff on YouTube is limited in terms of its reach. Who is going to find this? Who is going to watch this? Why is YouTube streaming like this? YouTube? Stop focusing on shorts so much. Do something besides throwing people bones like this. End the days where I get more views than concurrence, and even that number is crap, except in very, very, very rare occasions. Seriously. I think I know how to advertise YouTube streaming better than YouTube does, because they suck at it. If they did it at all, that is. Seriously? YouTube. You have an environment where people can have crosstalk between streams and videos. There's no emphasis on concurrence. You don't have a self-sabotage situation when you're learning how to stream for the first time, where you hurt yourself progression-wise if you don't have at least 3 concurrents, like Twitch going to Twitch affiliate. None of that crap exists over here. Where's the advertising for that? Where is the advertising that YouTube is a better place to start streaming on just by design alone if you don't know how to stream yet? Yeah, and you're trying to hammer out some technique and get good at it. You'll start small like everybody else, and then, of course, there's the UI. How do you progress when you start bumping into the UI or potentially being shadow banned or the algorithms or something like that? How? That's for YouTube to worry about. Just either way. So I suppose we are doing this recap stuff. Why don't we just do one more discussion? I'm not doing the tech video this weekend. We're not doing anything else with the E-Machine. Not going to happen. We got this little burst of summer, which I know will be gone by the middle of next week, and then we can revisit this later when we're not running the air conditioner. Do I really want to have videos in May with air conditioners going in the background like it's July or August? Yeah, we have summertime weather tonight, and this is the peak of it. There's going to still be some heat and humidity for the next couple of days, and then the dew point crashes in the middle of next week. Crashes hard. You're talking like summer dew points here in Connecticut are 60 degrees or so. It goes down to like 30 something, 20 something degrees on the dew point, which means the humidity is gonna plummet. I'll probably be running the heat. I turned off the pilot light in the heater for this place. I'll probably end up running the heat again in a couple of days. I got an AC going right now to drop the humidity down. What are we down to? It's the secondary, 5273. It's because it's on fan mode. I'm giving the compressor a rest while I stream, so it's not making as much noise. So, yeah, it's the secondary one in the kitchen's not as good at cooling the house as the primary one that goes in that window back there. The one that all the power strips are still on top of. I got to play catch up on all of this. It may get to the point where I have to run the AC, drop everything way down, and then film stuff with the fan going on low in the kitchen. So, hopefully that's less background noise. I don't want to be waking the neighbors or anything because I have technically open windows with air conditioners in them in the middle of the night. Get the cops called on me when I'm laughing at a computer not starting. So, yeah, I wasn't expecting this. I was hoping I could wrap this all up because we're going to start losing people at the 9 to 5 to this new COVID variant. We already have people out. Standard quarantine from the CDC these days is 5 days. So you get COVID, you lose a paycheck, depending on the timing. Well, and that's just, that's just like 5 days, and then maybe you can go back. The question is, are you in a position to go back if the thing's constantly knocking you to the floor with like fatigue waves and stuff like that? So do you really want to be running back to work after 5 days if you're just not up to it, especially in a position like in these warehouses where you're driving heavy equipment, or you might have to harness up and go like 5 stories in the air to pick stuff way up in the air? Do you really want to be driving a 10,000-pound cherry picker or, dealing with heavy equipment when you constantly have problems with fatigue or shortness of breath? That's the problem. Oh, but it was such a huge, huge problem for me that I was wearing my mask since going back to work, even though the community transmission in New England has been nuts for the last couple of weeks. Oh, yeah, I should probably mention last night, the management finally decided to reinstate our building mask mandate, so people have to wear masks on the job. So the thing is, under the system with community transmission, there was enough virus spread in this community where you should probably put a mask back on before I went back from EVTO. So we're like a month and a half later, and finally now the new system caught up and the management makes the decision for this. That's how slow the community level system is. It's slow. Yeah. And in the time it takes for your county to officially be flagged as having some kind of COVID problem, what can happen to you? How much work can you miss? And how much money does that cost you at a time when everything's getting more expensive? All these things that the hotheads on the internet don't want to talk about when they're saying the same 6 or 7 things over and over again in order to argue for the sake of arguing. That's the collective intelligence of the internet these days. Right. How about we get to the actual topic here, which is World of Warcraft. This might be a quick discussion because I can make this nice and to the point, but I want to make a video essay out of this. And one of the things I want to do with that video essay is really go into detail on just how much WoW sucks versus other MMOs. I should probably begin with, why am I playing World of Warcraft again? I've been playing ESO as my primary MMO. What the? Party mode on Discord? Shut up, Discord. So, why am I playing WoW again? Well, Elder Scrolls Online is getting rather underwhelming with the upcoming release of High Isle. I mentioned the Castle Navire thing, where they have this big, high fantasy, medieval Ren Fair Breton castle that you can't even go into all the parts of. So it's like almost like a stage prop. Think like Monty Python and the Holy Grail when they get to Camelot. Camelot, Camelot. It's only a model. It's like, were they trying to sneak in a Monty Python reference with this? Look, Elder Scrolls Online chapters, as they're called, not to be confused with like, proper expansions, I guess. Elder Scrolls Online chapters are just underwhelming. Some of them are less of an issue than others because we don't have anything mentally to attach them to. But let me just rattle off a couple of them and we can talk about ESO as it has expanded from the base game which was a crappy WoW clone when it first launched. And then someone smartened up at ZeniMax. They released 1 Tamriel, which is the patch when I got involved in ESO. And it finally resembled an Elder Scrolls game for the first time in its history. Yay. So the expansions, Morrowind added Vardenfell, finally, to the Morrowind part of the game because it was omitted. But it didn't add the Sheogorath Islands. So there's still one part of the Morrowind game that is not represented in ESO. Not like there was much out there anyway. It's just an island where you did a quest for Azura, I think. So, yeah, it was the Azura Daedric quest in Elder Scrolls Morrowind. I just don't like that you can't swim to it, at least. They should have found a way to put the landmass in the game somehow. Keep your drinks cold and ready, people. So, Elder Scrolls Online Morrowind adds Vardenfell. It is imported from the original game, but there are problems. Because Morrowind came out 20 years ago, you're talking early 2000s computers and the original Xbox running that game. That has consequences when you're running the Vardenfell landmass on 2010's hardware when that expansion first came out. I'm going to call them expansions because I'm not... Look, if I don't let Square Enix get away with it, coming up with new words for stuff that already exists in MMOs in order to look clever, like free companies instead of guilds or something like that. If I have a hard time with Square Enix doing that, I'm gonna have a hard time with ZeniMax doing that. I mean, come on, stop trying to reinvent the wheel. MMOs and RPGs have been around long enough that there are names that mean things to people. There are things you can say that describe things in these games. Stop trying to pretend we need to reinvent the wheel and come up with new names for them every single time a new developer releases a game. Spare me. So, Morrowind, as an expansion, brought back Vardenfell with some issues with view distance because we're running something that ran a game that a game was based on in the early 2000s on mid to late 2010s hardware. So a little bit of an issue there. World of Warcraft actually has a similar issue with the increased draw distance. So there are some things you never used to see in certain parts of Azeroth that you see now because of the increased draw distance. And there are some expansion maps that just didn't age very well. Now you see stuff, whereas previously you have a fog of war and the whole place just seems smaller. I mean, when something like Blizzard's MMO masterpiece here feels like a Mario 64 level because computers have gotten better. Hey, there's Dan. Yeah, it looks like RuneScape has that too. Has that issue too, huh, Dan? Yeah. But yeah, so when you take something like something you have a lot of memories in World of Warcraft and you turn it into something similar to a Mario 64 level, it just doesn't work. I'm sorry. It's like it feels just too contrived and stuff. But yeah, Morrowind was nerfed. There weren't as many caves to go into. Some of them were kept and stuff, but others were removed from the game, and most notably the Dunmer ancestral tombs, the Dark Elves, where they used to raid them and stuff. There are only a few of them in various story areas, and the rest were tomb rubbings for the museum pieces in there. I might as well say before we go too far in the expansion list for ESO and how underwhelming it is, that a lot of ESO expansions don't seem very, very audacious in terms of their design. It seems like they're always trying to play it safe. I know that theme park MMOs are a thing, and a lot of players who are fans of certain games want to see certain things, but it doesn't need to be like running around Six Flags. Oh, look, there's the, this ride or that ride or something like that. Get your picture taken with whoever this is. I think they still use Warner Brothers characters there. I don't know. Can you still get your picture taken with Bugs Bunny, or am I just that old? Last time I went to Six Flags, I was 18 years old. So it has been a while. Well, for those of you who are maybe new to the channel that see this now or after the fact, I'm 40 now. Boo hoo 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 hoo. Yeah, so Elder Scrolls Morrowind, it just seemed like a nostalgia tour. There was a story involving Vivek in the main quest in that expansion that was kind of cool, but for the most part, it was really kind of it felt more like an MMO expansion than a proper representation of the world we came to know and love in Morrowind. So Tiebacks to Morrowind, yes, but it's blah. Let's see what was next. Somerset, High Elves. There really was nothing that we could mentally anchor to, so it was cool to see Alinor and Shimmerine and stuff. So that was a cool expansion because we had nothing to compare it to. Elsewhere, nothing to compare it to. So we add Khajiit culture and stuff like that into the game. And then we go off to Skyrim for Greymoor. Skyrim was comparable to Elder Scrolls Skyrim. That's where it might have seemed a little blah, although there was an interesting story where the factions were reversed and the xenophobes were in Western Skyrim out by Solitude now instead of Eastern Skyrim out by Windhelm. So Greymoor had some interesting things in it. Then, of course, we come to like ESO Blackwood, which added parts of what we did in Oblivion with Cyrodiil, a little bit of Black Marsh with some of those places like Gideon, the town of Gideon and stuff like that. So, I mean, adding Leyawiin was a cool central hub and stuff like that. And then there was ESO Deadlands, which actually added the Deadlands from Elder Scrolls Oblivion. But Elder Scrolls Oblivion's Deadlands was just in the burn, the red lava part of it. There's the other part with the lightning storms that represented Mehrunes Dagon that was represented in ESO Deadlands. And now we come to ESO High Isle, which is, so far, it's the reason why I'm playing WoW again. Breton Overload. Sisters Archipelago, small island chain, supposed to be a cross between Breton medieval high fantasy and island stuff. What we have is, I didn't check out the quest in the public test servers. I don't want to spoil the main quest or anything doing it in its beta form, essentially. I want to wait till the game comes out to play through that. But part of the Bretons in Elder Scrolls is medieval high fantasy, essentially. They are kings and knights and wizards and stuff like that. One of the jokes about Breton culture is you climb a hill and become a king, because there's kingdoms all over the place. There's feudal stuff, and knights can make something of themselves. There's this big medieval fantasy here. There should be a huge, like, medieval fantasy that we can nerd out on. And Castle Navire is like a Monty Python castle. It's mostly just a model. You can only go into a couple of rooms, and the tournament area outside of the quest where you get Isabelle Valois is just two people riding horses back and forth like they're practicing. There's no like way of doing anything with it, not even in a roleplay sense. Whereas World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King had a jousting mini game. So I get that ZeniMax is sticking to a style when it comes to ESO High Isle. But I think the style isn't audacious enough. It doesn't make Tamriel believable enough. And we're talking people we're talking hardcore players of ESO that have bought a bunch of stuff from the Crown Store, and in my case, furnished player houses, made them their own. You know, I have like multiple castles to my characters' names, and they're all set up to reflect what kind of characters would call it a home base there. Just you have ideas and you basically make your own fun, but I think ZeniMax is taking that a little too much for granted. And so, with ESO High Isle looking kind of dull, quite frankly, compared to some of its predecessors of its expansions, when the big thing that they're publicizing is not necessarily the medieval high fantasy, but the big thing they're pushing is that card game, Tales of Tributes, then I see, the big focus that's, you wonder if it's sucking away resources from the proper Breton expansion thing. The big focus, a big thing they're plugging is that Elder Scrolls Online now has something akin to Hearthstone. Give me a break. Suddenly, it seems like the crap that goes on with World of Warcraft doesn't seem so bad when Elder Scrolls Online developers have gotten similar to Blizzard developers in Warlords of Draenor. And so we come to the topic of the discussion for today. World of Warcraft has doubled down on its Chromie time problem. So, I've gotten back into WoW mostly to finally play through Shadowlands. I paid for it. I'm going to experience the darn story. while it's still current. I blew that with Shadowbringers for Final Fantasy XIV, but Final Fantasy has its own problems. The trust systems and stuff, when it's a little more mature, might make it so I can actually get through that game without having to deal with the whiny little anime nerds that flip out if you don't speed run every single dungeon and you want to actually experience the story. Stuff like that. I might check that out later. But there's some other things too, like being able to get suspended from the game because you told someone they have to get better at playing it if they're like throwing and your group's dying because of it. Oh, yeah. So I'll save all of that walking on eggshells stuff for something else. So, World of Warcraft. The Blizzard scandals have blown over. There have been some changes at Blizzard. Bobby Kotick, I believe, has left as well. So, and then, of course, the damage of the scandals has actually stunted development throughout Shadowlands and made things take a lot longer than they should have. I would say that Blizzard's been knocked down a peg or so. But apparently they haven't been knocked down enough. Because the new expansion, World of Warcraft Dragonflight, has been announced. And one of the things that they're doing is something that I was concerned about. So, for those of you unfamiliar, World of Warcraft Shadowlands revamped the progression in the game into 3 distinct phases. Your starter experience when you're new to the game, levels 10 to 50 is whatever you want to do. You can pick an expansion and scale everything, or you can play through a little of each one. And BFA is the only one that scales all the way up from 10 to 50. So, you have those options available, and then 50 to 60 is Shadowlands, aka the current expansion. At the center of all this is a mechanic known as Chromie time. Chromie time is something that I was talking about back in 2019. I just didn't call it Chromie time. I called it Time Walker mode. And I'm curious if it was because of my discussion about classic mode and Time Walker mode, getting that stuff into the YouTube search results, that Blizzard decided to go with the name Chromie time. And I don't know. I've seen weirder things before. So I did something about the Ouya, for example, and then there was, I think it was the Ouya is dead, long live the Ouya. Someone tried to make a video with that title, and I guess they found mine and they came up with a variant of it for their video. So it's just one of those things where people don't want to, have to deal with people that came up with ideas for them, especially Blizzard with the hubris they've shown over the years. This is the company that pumped out essentially a trilogy of expansions with fundamentally flawed systems in them. Warlords of Draenor, Legion, Battle for Azeroth. Things like command tables and not as much of a focus on the game and other weird stuff similar to mobile games and stuff like that. So there has been arrogance with Blizzard developers before, and of course there would be arrogance with Chromie time. Chromie time is a system where you pick an expansion, a prior expansion, and your level 10 through 50 experience scales with it. But when you hit level 50, you get kicked out of Chromie time and you can't go back. This creates a form of world scaling, which sounded cool. And it almost creates the idea that I was tossing around back in 2019. Yeah, and I've made a playlist about it. World of Warcraft's Chromie time problem, I believe I've called it. If it's not called that, it's going to be called that very, very soon. I called it the level 49 problem initially because it was tied to your character being level 49. Blizzard had an unintended consequence where you should freeze your level at level 49 if you didn't want your characters doing current content, because once you hit 50... you get stuck in only the current expansion being anything other than a face roll. And I'm just wondering, why does Blizzard have to settle for this crap? Player freedom is something that matters in MMOs these days. It's what defines some of the newer MMOs that have been coming out for the last 10 years, going all the way back even to Guild Wars 2. The idea of people feeling like they're shaping their character's story is massive in these role-play games. And yet Blizzard has not only decided to be the stick in the mud with Shadowlands, they've decided to double down on this problem going into Dragonflight. So, why don't we compare player freedom as a great example of this? If you play Guild Wars 2, you have to level to some of the higher level zones, of course. You can't just go in. Well, Elder Scrolls Online has the most player freedom. Some would argue too much. You can go anywhere at any time. Just if you do the stories out of order, it's gonna seem weird. Like, for example, the dialogue might get weird if you do certain things out of order. But for the most part, you make a new character, they can go anywhere in the world and do anything at any time. This is in sharp contrast to World of Warcraft, the old school World of Warcraft, where ironically the expansions only sort of expanded the game. You started out with the original game. You had all this world. Then you went off to Outland, and everything suddenly only 5 zones or whatever it was mattered. Then you went to Northrend and Lich King, and the same thing happened again. Then the world got revamped in Cataclysm, but if after the thing is, it came out in a pre-patch, so people with level 80s were face rolling everything in the new stories in the leveling zones. You needed to make new characters in Cataclysm. You needed to make new Cataclysm characters in order to experience the stories, and then you weren't phased from the level 80s who kept one-shotting all your quest mobs, so it was a pretty terrible experience. But once the level 80s got away from everything, then you could actually have a good time going through the new stories in the new zones about how Deathwing had damaged the world and stuff like that. But once you got past that, it was back to the same couple of zones over and over again that your shaman circle or whatever those portals are in the capital cities can take you to. You have Vastgir, aka the fish tank, because it was the underwater zone and it looked like a giant fish tank. I think that's what I was thinking about earlier, where it doesn't seem as big as it used to be because of the increased draw distance. There's Mount Hyjal in Cataclysm, which had problems when it was current content because it was small little things on the side of Mount Hyjal. So everybody farmed the heck out of it, and they were always killing each other's mobs and stuff. So kind of a crappy experience. Then there was Uldum. There was the Twilight Highlands, and there was Deepholm. So it was a couple of zones. Those were the zones that mattered in Cataclysm. Mist of Pandaria, the Kung Fu Panda expansion. It started as a joke, but people came to respect it more as the story progressed. Same problem. Only Pandaria mattered. Warlords of Draenor. Only Draenor mattered. Legion. Only the Broken Isles mattered. Battle for Azeroth. There were war fronts and stuff like that that changed how things work in certain zones, but for the most part, your zones were all that mattered. And then we have the same thing with Shadowlands, where once you're into Shadowlands content, that area is all that really matters. So you can't, once you're past the level range, it's just not going to be the same if you want to go back and do a story you didn't get to do in the earlier parts of the game. It doesn't even have to be a main quest either. Could be a side quest or a quest chain that you didn't get to do. Now you're going to go back, it's going to be boring because you're going to be face rolling everything. So in comes Chromie time that tries to fix this by and this is Blizzard talking about, oh, it's the expansion for player agency. Notice how they said agency and not freedom. So I was like, oh, what kind of word salad are they playing on us here? So I do some digging and I find out Chromie time is going to be a limited form of player freedom. Levels 1 through 49, you had access to the world similar to the way you would in a game like Guild Wars 2, Elder Scrolls Online, Star Wars The Old Republic, you name it. Things would scale. Let me just talk about the other games. Guild Wars 2, you had to level into the zones, but you'd get scaled back if you went back. So you wouldn't be face rolling everything. If you went back and did a story you didn't do in an earlier part of the game, then it would still be somewhat challenging to do. It wouldn't be like one-shotting everything all boring like that. So in sharp contrast to World of Warcraft, where only the current zones matter, there's even an Asmongold clip on Cat Danny's old channel that talked about whether it was more worth it to buy a boost and whatnot because the zones were always empty because nobody wanted to level anymore back then in 2019. So you had all that going on, and the expansions don't really expand the world, do they? Guild Wars 2, however, with the dynamic down-leveling, the expansions actually made the world bigger. And then Star Wars The Old Republic had a similar system. Elder Scrolls Online cranked it all the way up to where everything leveled with you. And to the extent that it kind of felt like there wasn't as much player progression in the game because of the way they made it so much of a sandbox that you could go anywhere, do anything at any time. The most you'll do is make the stories weird if you do certain things out of order. But the effect that has, particularly with ESO, is that expansions actually expand the game. When Somerset came out, if you weren't done with Morrowind yet, who cares? Finish Morrowind. Or go do Somerset and go back and finish Morrowind later. It's not going to matter. You know, the world is still going to be engaging in some way, even though the game's a little too easy. It's not going to be like World of Warcraft when you outlevel the zone. It's not going to be like that. So, Blizzard starts to notice that they're having problems in this area. That the expansions don't really expand the game. So their solution for Shadowlands was Chromie time. Levels 10 to 50, you pick an expansion to level through in order to get to the Shadowlands. Everything scales with you, and the dungeon finder will pull from the dungeons for the expansion that you selected. That had an unintended consequence, though, of making the queue times longer, because now you have everybody who's leveling characters split between all the prior expansions in terms of dungeons. But at level 50, you got kicked out automatically. Nothing you could do, and you had to go off to Shadowlands. You are now a current content character. So guess what that did in this day and age where we're a decade into MMOs giving players more freedom to write their own stories and do what they want when they want. When players are already used to MMOs letting them go back and do old stuff and not have it be totally boring farm mode. As you can imagine, it had plenty of unintended consequences. Poke around on Reddit to see some of the doozies that are out there nowadays. There is a subculture among WoW players as to, well, here's the thing. The unintended consequence that I talked about was it was worth it to freeze your level at level 49 with those special NPCs in the capital cities so you could be in Chromie time with those characters forever and spend as much time as you want going through any of the stories that you want. Think about it for a second. Suppose you're a new player to WoW. You have all of this stuff, and the stories get better and better as Blizzard gets more and more experience. So you you don't get to play the original game, but you start with Chromie time to Burning Crusade, Lich King, Cataclysm. You can go through all the darn stories and see all the development of the game if you really want to play through all that story stuff and make a bunch of questing gold. Hey, by the way, when you're in Chromie time and you do, like, say, the Quell Danas dailies in Burning Crusade, it gives you more gold than when you do them at max level. Or when you do them as in current Shadowlands stuff. I haven't gotten a max level Shadowlands character yet because I've been busy with other stuff and playing other games, but I'll have to double check that with Quell Danas to see if that's the case. But you actually got more gold freezing your level doing Quell Danas dailies. So if you really want an easy source of money, just freeze your character at level 49 and just pretend it's Burning Crusade, except with modern features like Dungeon Finder. So from levels 1 to 49, World of Warcraft with Chromie time, or should I say 10 to 49, is similar to other MMOs where you have player freedom. But if your character hits 50, you get kicked out and can't go back. So freeze your level. That's the unintended consequence. And as part of that, as Shadowlands has done its thing over the last few years, there actually has been arguments and philosophies on the internet about when specifically to freeze your level. To have Chromie type characters forever and ever. There's been, there actually are discussions on Reddit. Should you freeze it at 49 because that makes the most sense up front? Should you freeze it at 47 so you don't get the nagging thing to go to the Shadowlands? When should you, if you freeze your level but then you go off to the Shadowlands, does it kick you out of Chromie time if you're doing like Shadowlands content at level 48? When is the best time to freeze your level? When is the best time to freeze your level? I think I'll take the Lockhart monk character and figure that out myself by trying to freeze her level at 47 and then starting Shadowlands and seeing if I get kicked out of Chromie time. Supposedly, you could even choose your covenant in Shadowlands if you with a frozen level, but I got to get the answers on that. Bottom line is, people are having arguments on the internet about when to freeze their character's level because Blizzard half-assed player freedom for Shadowlands. Why can't they just make it Chromie is in Stormwind and Orgrimmar regardless of what part of the game that you are in. Why can't you just go and use the same options you had from 10 to 50 anytime you want after 50? So if you want to go back and do a BFA story or a Warlord story or work on your garrison or whatever, you can scale everything post level 50 by going to Chromie and picking a different timeline and then saying, no, return to the current timeline when you want to go back to Shadowlands. Why can't that be a thing, Blizzard? Why do you insist on half-assing player freedom so freaking much, Blizzard? So, this creates a bit of a problem, don't you think? Especially if you might get bored with the current expansion. What do you do in response to that? What a freaking mess. Let me see. Let me bring up my Twitter. I want to look through my media. Let me actually get that. Let me just prep that. I should have prepped it before, right? There's a picture that I want to... There's a picture of... There it is. There it is. There it is. Oh, I can't do it. I gotta... All right. Did I ever do a... Yeah, I did a response to that. Let me just load that up in the browser. I'll link up to browser mode. So here's the problem that this system creates. And let me just go... What are we at for live time? 45 minutes in. How about we get to the problem with Dragonflight first? So World of Warcraft Dragonflight... There's been some discussions with Ian Hazakostas. Unless something changes between now and the launch, let me put on dark mode here so I'm not lit up so much. There's a browser extension for that. So here's the plan for Chromie time going into Dragonflight. The answer is that they're doubling down on it. They're not fixing it. They're doubling down on it. Levels 1 to 10 is a start zone. 10 to after that you go up to level 60 in whatever in your Chromie time, and then after that 60 to 70 will be Dragonflight. So everything will get rescaled from 10 to 60. So they're keeping Chromie time as is, and then what? You get kicked out afterwards to go do Dragonflight. So they're doubling down on the problems that Shadowlands already has with regards to player freedom and the problems that it causes with, like, now, the leveling players in Chromie time have their own queues for dungeons based on the expansion they selected. Well, what if Blizzard made it so you could change your campaign and Chromie time back over after that part of the game if you wanted to run an older dungeon for some gear or something? Imagine if max level players or higher level players could get into those queues and have everything scale with them just like they will with you for Lich King, Burning Crusade, blah, 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 whatever part of the game you want to play. Why does it have to be this way? Why does Blizzard always have to try too hard to be clever like this? This is textbook Blizzard hubris right there. You know, oh, this is a thing in other games, but it can't be a thing in our game because of this, and this excuse. Blib, 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 talking around in circles, blah, 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 blah. And after they're done kicking against the bricks, they sheepishly introduce the feature anyways, but they half-ass it, which is what they did with Chromie time. No, this is the same company that was like, you think you do, but you won't. You think you do, but you don't when it comes to WoW Classic, and how is that doing? You know? Why does Blizzard have to be at war with their paying customers so much for such a long period of time? Why? Why does it have to be this way? You know? Let people just go to Chromie time anytime they want when they want to take a break from the current stuff. Because you ever stop and think about what this means, that it's carving the game in half between, it's literally the current expansion versus the entire rest of the game in its current form. You freeze your character's level so they can't get out of Chromie time. You actually have more content in all the prior expansions than you do in something like Shadowlands. You know? And, oh, but people have already played through that old stuff. What about new players? What about players that took a few years off? What about players that didn't play certain expansions? Yours truly, having not hardly done anything with BFA and not a lot of stuff with Legion. I haven't been too into WoW since getting into ESO. What if I want to go back and play through those stories? What if I want the option of experiencing the old raids through a raid finder, do LFR or something. It's like, why? Why does Blizzard have to screw this up so much to the point where players are saying stuff on the forums and off of the forums, and then there's Reddit, and then there's this entire like discussion about when to freeze your level because Blizzard can't actually do that. Dan brings up a good point. What if you want to go to vanilla WoW? That was the other idea I had back in 2019, classic mode. We know that war mode in Battle for Azeroth phased you into a different version of the game to PvP and do world PvP and stuff. So why not have classic mode as one of the things you can Chromie time into? The way that Blizzard got WoW Classic working was to marry up an old patch's data with a relatively recent WoW client. It wasn't like remaking the game entirely. They married up the old game with a relatively recent client. What if they married it up with the current client and made it phased? And then set it up to where you could use it. This would have solved one of the biggest arguments with WoW Classic when people wanted Dungeon Finder in it and stuff like that. Instead of playing the classic client, they would just play classic mode on modern WoW and get all the modern stuff they want. So, vanilla WoW, you can play classic for it, but you're going to be playing it the old-fashioned way. There were some people out there that wanted classic light or classic plus or something along those lines. They wanted something where there were some modern features included in there. And here's the interesting part. Wrath of the Lich King Classic is going to be a mix of stuff. Burning Crusade Classic also had a mix of old school, new school, stuff like that. So that they're drifting in this direction with the classic clients anyways. But yeah, old school WoW, they totally could put that back in the game. They have the technology. That's how they made Classic. And just put it in with Chromie time. You select the original game, call it Classic Mode or whatever. I don't care, Blizzard, if you take the name from me. You know, I don't care. You know, I will sign a release that I forego all the rights and I cannot sue you so you can have a classic mode and a Time Walker mode in World of Warcraft. I will gladly do that just to see this game get better, which it should have years ago. Seriously. I will very gladly do that. But yeah, there could totally be a classic mode in this game where you go to Chromie, get sent back to old school Azeroth. Heck, they could probably phase it too, where you have different Kings of Stormwind, depending on what you select for your Chromie time expansion. So it's like, that's the player freedom, world scaling solution that players have wanted, but Blizzard isn't content to take it to its logical conclusion and have it as a permanent feature in the game so that higher level players can go back and do old stuff when they want to change a pace or something. What, were they worried about it cannibalizing Shadowlands? Are they worried about it giving them some accountability so if they make a bad expansion, everybody's going to play the old stuff or not play the game at all? Are they really worried about that crap instead of just making a better game? Come on, Blizzard. And so going off into Dragonflight with the system where, oh, it's going to be 10 to 60 now. Yep, yeah. So I got Smite at like level 52 or whatever, 51, I don't know. Maybe I should stop playing her until the new expansion comes out, make her a Chromie Time character, because that's what Chromie Time does to World of Warcraft. It cuts the game into two products, the current expansion and literally everything else before it. So here's the wonderful world of Warcraft that it creates. A world of people playing a video game where you have to ask yourself with your whatever characters you create, do I want these characters in the current? And if the answer isn't an emphatic yes, freeze their levels and leave them in Chromie time. Freeze their levels, and that's where we're going to hook up to browser mode. It's going to hook up to live control room, right? No, of course not. Good. It was using Chrome last. Here are two characters, Goodman and Lockhart on Alexstrasza. Goodman is basically my original paladin recreated from scratch. We did that back to the beginning, the original Goodman, whatever. He's on Alexstrasza. I bought a WoW token, so we had a bunch of gold to start out with. One of the cool things you do with WoW tokens is you don't have to worry about grinding up gold to get established on more servers. WoW token introduces some problems to the game, like essentially an extension of the cash shop and stuff like that. Mad Season did a very good video on that. And Lockhart is a priest. She originally was a priest. I put in this little, like, some little fan story or whatever, where she decided to become a monk to be similar to a paladin without putting on the heavy armor. I actually still have the video from like 2010. Really horrible quality because of YouTube's limitations back then. But these two characters exist on Alexstrasza. My two servers in WoW are Terralion for Alliance and Garrosh for Horde. And I keep a character on Stormrage just for the hell of it. I keep some characters on Stormrage just for the hell of it, but it's always a full server, so I could probably delete those so I don't have to deal with queues as much, because my existing servers, Terralion and Garrosh, are low pop or new players realms. So hopefully when Dragonflight comes out, I won't get hardly any queues with that, or I'll just go back to playing ESO. Who knows? We got some time. Or catch up in Final Fantasy. Goodman and Lockhart here, though, they exist because their counterparts on Terralion, Goodmane and Lockhart, the Paladin and the Monk, the Paladin, of course, being my main from 2006. Those two characters are past Chromie time. Or should I say, Lockhart's going to be the Chromie time test. So it's going to be Goodmane, Lockhart. Actually, it's Smita, the priest that I have, that's past Chromie time. So these two characters, the only reason they exist is as Chromie time. Give me my pointer, please. The only reason these characters exist is because they're Chromie time characters. I'm going to find out the best level to freeze them at, and then they're going to be for literally the entire rest of the game. So I have copies of existing characters, somewhat with Lockhart versus Smita, but I have copies of existing characters because of this problem. So this is essentially my main, the Paladin, but Chromie time, whereas my real main is going to be used for current content. So I will always level my main past the Chromie time stuff. So I have two copies of the same character, essentially, with these two, somewhat with Lockhart, because she's different. I have copies of characters for Chromie time that don't need to exist. How's that for an unintended consequence of Blizzard not going far enough with player freedom and making Chromie time something that you can toggle on at any How's that for you? Literal duplicate characters because of this screwball system. Hey, World of Warcraft lets you have more characters than Elder Scrolls Online. You can have like 50 characters, I think, if it hasn't been expanded since the allied races came out and stuff. So you can have, if you're an altaholic, you can go crazy with alts in WoW. You can have a blast with it. You're going to have fun with as many characters as you want up to that limit. And I mean, that basically means like multiples of one of each class at the very least. And don't forget, there's multi-spec, and you can respec and change specs on the fly, things along those lines. You got all this wonderful stuff that didn't exist in the earlier years of the game. But duplicate characters because of Chromie time being a half-cooked version of player freedom. Duplicate characters. The only reason they exist is because of Chromie time and its problems. Why? I don't mind retro characters like that. They're on Alexstrasza, the very first server I ever played on. Probably nobody remembers me from that server back when I was Goodman in like 2006, 2007. But I'm making duplicates of my characters because of Chromie time. And why wouldn't you? You literally have more content with a Chromie time character than you do with a current expansion character. Why? And it's going to continue in Dragonflight. We just have Shadowlands as one of the Chromie time expansions now. Why? Blizzard, is this what you want for your game? when Guild Wars 2 has been doing this better for a decade? When Elder Scrolls Online has been doing this the best for about 5 years or so since the one Tamriel patch? Is this what you want? Has Blizzard really been knocked down enough pegs with everything that's gone on in the last couple of years? Plummeting numbers, scandals at the company, being sued by the state of California. Have they really been knocked down enough pegs? Why? Why does there still need to be players upset about this Chromie time thing? Why do there still need to be the discussions about when's the best time to freeze your level? Why does any of this have to exist? And in my case, why do I have to make duplicates of my characters if I like them, but, you know, I want my characters to be able to experience current content, but also have a Chromie time, blah, blah, blah. Why can't I just go to the capital city and change back anytime I want? Why can't I change what I can queue for in the dungeon finder by going back to my capital city and changing my campaign? You know, you have Chromie as a like time. They're called time walking campaigns, for Pete's sake. Why? Why does this still exist? I'm sorry. Other games just do this better. There are some things that WoW does better than other games, but this is one of the things they don't do better. Why did Blizzard have to not only settle for this crap, but double down on it, going into a second expansion in a row that's going to have the exact same problem, just at a different player level? Has Blizzard really been knocked down enough pegs? If anybody else has anything to say in the chat, go ahead and bring it up about this topic. But I want to make a video essay about this because video essays are more popular on YouTube, and I think I can make something that's better looking than this chat stream stuff. I just want to get the ideas out there and the gears turning. Who knows? Maybe someone will get Asmongold to listen to some of this. But I don't think I think he's more involved in the end game, though, and he won't really care about this whole Chromie time thing. But I can tell you, once you've been somewhere other than World of Warcraft, you notice the differences and also the hills that Blizzard has essentially chosen to die on, so to speak. You notice the half-assed player housing that was the garrison system. You notice the pseudo whatever guild system thing that was the command tables. You had followers in Warlords, you had champions and troops in Legion, and you had something else in BFA. But it was too much like something you could do on your phone. And it actually was made, the World of Warcraft companion apps were actually made to do those things on your phone at one point during those expansions as life cycles. I know I did the Warlords of Draenor and Legion ones on my tablets for a bit. They're just a little slow because the processors on my mobile devices aren't all that great because they're basic cheapo stuff. But no, Blizzard hubris. It's a perennial source of problems for this game. And we wonder why things have been declining since late Lich King, which was 2000s. Oh. Look. The fishbowl effect. The fishbowl is shattered, Blizzard. There's people out there that have played other games, and they've seen the ways those other games have done better than World of Warcraft has. It's time for WoW to finish playing catch-up. Granted, Dragonflight is still in development, so maybe, just maybe, Blizzard might smarten up about this and look at what their players have been saying throughout Shadowlands about Chromie time and all these stupid-ass workarounds because Blizzard won't commit to player freedom the same way multiple other major IP MMOs have done so. Star Wars, Elder Scrolls, Guild Wars, 3 and counting. You know? Why? Why does this have to continue? Why does this have to go into a second expansion? I don't think it should. Simple as that. Seeing nothing in the chat, I got some catching up to do in WoW. I want to unlock the Cultirans because I never got to do that. Apparently, if you play through BFA with an allied race, you don't have to run all the dungeons and stuff that are part of unlocking the Kultirans. So, yeah, gotta play BFA again when I should be playing through Shadowlands. I'll have some stuff. I'm not going to stream most of that. Just gonna play some catch up and relax with this channel for a bit as things get screwy in the next couple of weeks. But it's just playing through BFA again. And the Chromie time problem is part of the reason why I have to play through BFA all over again. Because take a second character 100% through the stories and the achievements and all the BFA zones. Even though I went through that specifically. But I decided to take my main off to the Shadowlands instead of keeping him frozen. Instead of freezing his level when he could still run BFA dungeons. So, I don't know if I could have done it. It's the big prison dungeon, Tol Dagor or whatever it is. You have to take down the Ashvane supervisor, whatever it is. So that's the part of the achievement that I'm stuck on for the Pride of Kultiras. I've had ideas for Kultiran characters for years now. Just been playing other games and doing other stuff too. This chair is creaking. I guess the air conditioner must have done its job. Put some oil in it. But yeah, just like if this Chromie time thing wasn't a thing, I could go switch back to BFA. I could switch back to Battle for Azeroth and go do this and not need to send a second character through all this to finish it, because I could jump into the dungeon finder for BFA if they just set up the darn Chromie time system the way other games would handle player freedom. How many more screwball things do I have to talk about because of Blizzard's one dumb design decision with this? How many? All right. Well, since I'm playing through stuff extra times, I suppose I better get to it. Like and subscribe. If you're seeing this after the fact, subscribing to the channel unlocks stream chat, so if you catch me live, you can take part in this and get past the spam filter. So, yeah. Once again, I have stream chat off, or stream chat is sub only because of spam crap and stuff like that. I always get spammed whenever I have it full open. So, for those of you that might stop by or see this or whatever. Anyway, not that it's gonna matter anyways. That would just be the lurkers that, stop by and I see the thing tick up for a bit and they leave. But YouTube has bigger issues to deal with when it comes to streaming. We'll save that for another discussion, though. Blizzard, fix your Chromie time problem already. Stop doubling down on stuff that was half-assed in Shadowlands with the development of Dragonflight. Got it? Or don't cry about how your game is such a fallen star like it is. Used to have 12 million subscribers, and you've dwindled it down to whatever it is today. Used to be a cultural phenomenon with commercials with celebrities, even Mr. T at one point, and William Shatner. And now it is what it is today. There's reasons why WoW is in the state that it's in, and this Chromie time thing is but one of them. So, baby steps, fix the Chromie time problem. Do what other games have been doing for years. Excuse me, years. Sometimes the noise filter thingies can cause silence by accident. So yeah, fix your crap that, has been causing problems and other unintended consequences for years, Blizzard. If I don't hear anything different in the development of Dragonflight, I'll probably make a video essay about this at some point later on, and I'll bet that gets more views. Those kinds of things are more popular on YouTube these days than these little chat streams that are similar to vlogs from 2006, except a lot longer. Right then, I guess I got some BFA to play and some stuff to keep an eye on with WoW News and MMO Champion to see if Blizzard ever smartens up. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.